Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi here from seekingbalance.com.au, and I'm really excited today to be meeting one of my peers, one of my clients, and a really special person from my Rocksteady community. And I want to introduce you to Diane from the UK, who's here to share her recovery process and to talk about what healing chronic symptoms of dizziness and vertigo. And we'll also chat, I'm not sure if you've ever experienced tinnitus as well, but first of all, let's meet Diane. So welcome to the call, Diane. So thrilled to meet you, and it's just a delight.
Hi everybody. Thanks, Joey. Good to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we dive right into introducing yourself, about where you came from, what you were feeling, and just to reiterate to everybody that, you know, everyone is different and has different set of sensations. Some people describe, you know, kind of vibrating sensations in their head, other people sounds, other people spinning, sway. Like there's a million different words, and everything is real. Whatever you feel is real. And I really like to humanize this experience, because regardless of whether you have not quite right feelings, tinnitus, dizziness, vertigo, imbalance, disequilibrium, you know, the list goes on. It's real. Whatever you feel is real. And it's important that everybody learns how to reclaim their sense of normal. And that's something that the journey that you're well and truly on. I feel like you're just there, Diane. So I'm just really excited for you to introduce yourself and talk about where you've come from, where you are now, whatever you want to share. We're here to listen.
Okay. Right. Well, I started on this journey about 3 years ago now. Had an episode which resulted in a vertigo attack. And yeah, it's been a long road. It was a full spinny thing that went on for ages, had the usual tests, CT scan, lumbar puncture. It seems such a long time ago. Yeah, but felt really dizzy, disorientated, and unwell for a number of months, really. Saw a neurologist, saw an ENT, audiologist, went to a private clinic. I can't remember. So many different people I've seen, and they've all been great in their way, but they couldn't do anything for me. I did have a series of vestibular rehab exercises to do, which I couldn't get on with. I was diagnosed with PPPD and vestibular migraine, but I couldn't get on with the vestibular rehab exercises, the gaze exercises, because they made me feel so very, very unwell. I had sort of 3 shots at doing them over maybe 6-9 months.
That is such a long period, and it's a really common story too, that so the kind of the theory goes that we need to habituate, we need to kind of flood the brain with these movement exercises or gaze exercises in order to override the dizzy signals and reset the system. But that simply doesn't work if we're pushing through emotional discomfort, anxiety, fear, nausea, and the emotional spiritual aspect, which you now get because you've done Rocksteady.
Yeah.
But do you want to share your journey there with just feeling like, oh my God, I'm doing my best, I'm doing what I'm told to do by the professionals, and 6-9 months later, I'm feeling like I've failed, I can't do this. Like, how was that?
Oh, it's devastating, because you're hanging on to this because you think this is the way forward, this is the way out of this, and you give it your all and you try and do it, but it just makes you feel so unwell. And you think, right, I'll power on through this, I can do this, but you just end up exhausted and having to stay in bed for a week, and that's not a life.
No, that's really a disaster. And just so that people listening can get a feel for the biology and the neurology behind this, when we're pushing through, when we're unwell, when we're consumed with anxiety and fear and uncertainty and confusion, and self-doubt is a big one here. As I've said in the live group call, self-doubt is destructive. If we're living a life based on self-doubt, the brain can't relax. And this is the key to neuroplasticity. So if we want to reset our symptoms and return to normal, we have to find a way to feel relaxed in our body. We have to find a way to feel at ease and at peace in our body, because that process flicks our nervous system into the repair zone where neuroplasticity and new synapses are actually possible. When we're in fight, flight, freeze, and we're pushing through and we're ignoring and we're denying and we're distracting, and when we're in that zone of just get on with it or do what you're told, the brain's locked up. It's seized in survival mode, and it simply can't heal from that place. So the emotional, mental, spiritual aspect of preparing for recovery is the most important piece. You can't dive straight into the physical exercises, diets, medication, and gaze stabilization. And too often the mainstream world, whether that be our medical doctors, audiology colleagues, physiotherapy, and to some extent even the psychology world, there's a huge missing link in the treatment, that people are not able to find their peace with where they're at and the emotional, mental, spiritual journey of empowerment before diving into that physical rehab. Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey now that you've done the Rocksteady program, you've been involved in our group calls, which is where we've met, and being able to go through the physical rehab after that, the mental, emotional, spiritual journey?
Yeah, it's just been, well, when I found Seeking Balance, I couldn't believe it, because I had trawled the internet for months and months, just trying to get snippets of information that might help me along the way. And then you popped up. And it's just amazing how much calmness and confidence that gave me to deal with my symptoms. It really did. And yeah, the symptoms initially are still there, but you learn that self-confidence and that patience with your recovery. And, yeah.
And I think that's actually a really important point. I've had a couple of private clients this week where one of the take-home messages has been, if something like this, if we're waiting for symptoms to go away until we seek our joy and peace, it'll never happen.
Yeah.
So this is the subtle nuance of neuroplasticity, is we have to fully love and accept ourselves as we are with the symptoms we have right now, so the brain can go, oh, I'm safe. Now I can form new neural pathways. And if we're waiting to get rid of our symptoms before we seek that ease, peace, and joy and go deep into self-love, it'll never happen. And I've met heaps of people who are like, I love myself, I'm not stressed, I'm fine, I've got a spiritual practice, I'm really connected, I'm this, I'm that, but I hate my symptoms. And it's like, I think there's a missing link here. There's a part of you that you're rejecting and hating. And it doesn't matter how robust your spiritual practice is, or how many times you go to church, or how many times you do yoga, or how many times you run yourself a bath and light oils and clear your energy with white light. If
Still got that in your head.
Exactly. If you are resisting the sensations you're feeling in your body right now, you are actively practicing a form of self-rejection, self-hatred, and self-critique. To really go into self-acceptance and self-love, you've got to meet yourself in that nasty, nasty place that you hate and go, it's going to be okay. You're allowed to feel this. I support you. I love you, and take your time. That's the self-dialogue, the self-reassurance. And so, And so do you want to share with the listeners a little bit about that transition of going from the mainstream model of push through, you got to feel sick in order to get better kind of attitude, and then shifting into the Rocksteady zone and figuring that out for yourself, the different approach?
The Rocksteady approach allowed me to realise that I was anxious, and I would have said to anybody, I haven't got anxiety. I mean, I've been offered antidepressants so many times and said, no, I don't want those. Nothing, I'm not anxious. And then somebody, I can't remember whether I heard it on one of the live calls, was saying that, you have to be, if you've had these symptoms for a long time, you are anxious at some subconscious level. You will be anxious because you're stuck in the fight and flight, like you always say. So that was a revelation to me, that me of all people, I was anxious. But yeah, and that's a self-acceptance, and that was such a relief, really, in a way. I can't really explain, but I was just allowed to be anxious.
And I want to say here that knowledge is power. I mean, knowledge isn't all of our healing, but a huge part of Rocksteady is education, because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we understand what's happening inside of us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, the more we can build our toolbox of relevant, workable strategies to address each of those things. So it's like we're collecting data points about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've had vertigo and tinnitus, and when anybody, it's so normal basically for anybody to go through this inner distortion, inner sensory impairment, inner sensory overload or underload or whatever goes on.
Yeah.
The most natural emotional response to that would be anxiety as a human being.
Yeah.
Very rare for someone to have screeching noises or spinning or vomiting or whatever and be like, cool as a cucumber, let's go to the movies.
Yeah.
You know, so it's actually appropriate anxiety. It's situationally normal, appropriate anxiety. It's not like a medical illness that needs some kind of rare medication or diagnostic process. It's like you feel wonky, therefore you feel anxious about that. Like it's completely appropriate. And I think that's liberating. It's like, oh, I'm normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm allowed to do this. I'm allowed to feel this.
Yeah.
And that is it in a nutshell. And the best thing with all this is the best thing with the body scans. When I found that I could control my symptoms with a body scan, and I could feel so much better. And it's like, well, it's magic. It really is. It's so, for me, it works 150%, and I'm addicted to them.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Much healthier to be addicted to a body scan, which is connecting to the proprioceptive touch signals in our skin. And I offer a free body scan to anybody. So if you go to my website, seekingbalance.com.au, you can sign up and get a free body scan audio right away and give it a go. But the proprioceptive signal takes up quite a really large portion of our brain and an important portion of our brain, because it helps us physically navigate where we are in terms of north, south, east, west, and to know where's my arm and where's my big toe. And so it's the whole where am I conversation. It's orientation. However, importantly, it's also our emotional soothing network. And if you think about a little baby crying that's upset, we don't go up and start talking to it. We cuddle it. There's a part of the human brain that when it's distressed, language doesn't work. English doesn't get into that limbic system, that amygdala part of the brain. Touch does. So when we're back in contact with touch and proprioception and able to self-soothe, that part of our brain that's in catastrophe mode actually goes, Mum's here, I'm safe, I'm home. And we can self-parent ourselves, self-reassure. And the body scan process opens the door to that, and I think when I first met you in our Facebook group, you mentioned like it's better than medication for me. I don't actually need to medicate anymore. I've got this body scan skill.
Yeah. In fact, I've been on holiday. We went to Cornwall in the autumn, and with some friends, and I really was feeling unwell, and I had to take myself away and just rest. And I'm brave enough to do that now because I was a person that didn't like to say no. So I would just push on and do things and think, I can cope with this. But I took myself away, and I did a body scan, and I had a good talk to myself, and I had a little sleep, and I came down afterwards, after a while, and I allowed myself to wallow and feel miserable, and said, okay, you can only do this for a while, but do it. And then get over it. And that's exactly what I did. And our friend who was staying with us said, I got you a different woman when I came back downstairs. Totally different woman. And, I didn't tell him all about what I was doing up there, but it's, and he knew I was doing a body scan.
And I think that's the sacred space. So it's like rather than being right, I have to be happy, I have to be beautiful, I have to weigh this much, I have to earn this much money, I've got to have this many friends, I've got to drive this kind of car, like all of these conditional expectations and judgments that we self-impose because society's taught us to do that. When we strip those away and sort of go, okay, well, this is how I am today. Today I'm feeling tender. Today I'm feeling a little sad. Today I'm noticing I'm processing guilt over that thing I didn't do or that way I treated myself. So what I'm going to do is give that time and space. I'll give it a color. I'll let it move through me. And through that body scanning process and all of the Rocksteady toolkit, we're able to actually let the brain consciously and in the real time release all of those things that are kind of blocked inside of us and jamming our muscles up and knotting us from the inside. And through that releasing process, then we can access the kind of sister emotions of relief and joy and calm and connection and self-intimacy and inner peace. So the irony is as human beings, we have all of these colorful emotions. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. Every healthy human being will get moments of depression, anxiety, shame, guilt, etc., right? Fury, rage, hostility, jealousy. People who are in a healthy emotional space with the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual interconnect, these people feel things quickly and with flow. So the jealousy might come for 3 seconds, notice it, process it, learn from it, release it.
Right.
People who have that emotional immaturity or disconnection could be jealous for hours, for days, for weeks, for years, and that jealousy never has anywhere to move. Yeah? So this process of being in touch and allowing, and as Diane beautifully role modeled, sometimes you've got to remove yourself from society and process that, get back into your heart, restabilize, reconnect, find steadiness, and then go back and join the party.
Say, hey, I'm here. I'm me now. The other thing that I've noticed so much is that I see things, you'll understand this, I see everything in Technicolor now.
Cool.
It's like I've got a new pair of glasses. I go to the beach, I go to the walks in the forest and the woods, and I see everything differently. I've always been someone that likes to be in nature, but now it is just incredible. I don't know what it is, but I see it differently and I appreciate it so much more.
Yeah.
It's just a new way of looking at everything, I think, in sheer amazement.
Well, I think there's a few things I want to say to that. One is congratulations, because this really is a sign you've reset your brain.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So when we're in fight, flight, freeze, especially for prolonged periods of time, beyond 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like stimulation overload, and your neurons and your synapses are like going ding, 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 ding. And it's hard to appreciate the detail and the patterning of a little leaf or a little flower or a snail or a bird. We can't even hear those bird sounds. We're too overwhelmed by our inner agitation. And so as you go through the neuroplasticity process, we're able to self-soothe, to calm down the neural ping pong ball machines or pinball machines. And as we're able to bring that quietness, the brain can restabilize and gain actual presence instead of living in the past or living in the future. That's when we're able to process and appreciate more details in the here and now. We can actually see the leaves, we can see the petals, we can smell the aroma, we can hear the birds. And AWE is probably one of the most healing emotions we can tap into. I think that trumps gratitude, and it, when we sit back in awe and we're just like, wow, that is miraculous. How does Mother Nature do that? Or listening to a symphony, or just connecting with whatever it is that does it for you, whether it's the beach, the mountains, music, art. I know I'm often in awe of my biology. It's just like, wow, how does my body do that? Recently perforated my eardrum and it healed so quickly. I feel like I'm Wolverine or something. It was amazing. I had this hissing, raging tinnitus and extreme pain around the ear and jaw for like a week, and then that was it. And I'm just like, that's so quick.
Superwoman.
Well, actually, on that note, I think Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's an amazing researcher and thought leader in the mindfulness world, he really was one of the people to bring mindfulness to the mainstream. American medical researcher. In one of his books, he talks about people who meditated consciously on the healing process and visualized it. So the equivalent of me visualizing my eardrum healing. visualizing what's going on with the discharge and releasing all the gunk that my body doesn't need, visualizing the fact that the noise represents the busy activity of the membranes repairing, the skin's growing. It's a noisy process. So if I'm consciously going, oh, wow, thank you, body, you're being so loud and you're healing so beautifully, instead of, why are you there? Go away. I hate this. I can't sleep, because I was consciously in a loving place of awe. The research he did showed that those people healed 4 times more quickly than people who did not mindfully connect to healing.
Wow.
Yeah, so there really is something in the mind-body connection versus resistance, right? So when we, amazing. So connecting with awe really does help us see the world differently, the technicolor, the detail, and receptivity. So when we're overwhelmed, which happens to anyone with chronic symptoms, whether it be pain, vertigo, dizziness, tinnitus, etc., the brain can't take anymore and it locks up, it rejects information. It's not capable of learning, it's not capable of receiving, it's in survival mode. Yeah.
Get it.
And so going through this process that you've done, it reopens your neural channels to actually being present, resetting, rewiring, and receiving new data. So you can build new pathways.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit with the listeners about any challenges you had about using technology, actually going, I'm going to sign up to this self-study process? Like, did that blow your mind? Was that new for you? Had you done it before? What was that like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was fairly new to me because I'd only ever seen people face to face before. Different medics and people. But this was just liberating because you're connected in such a way to a community that actually understands and it is non-judgmental. And that's the key to it. So any fear that anybody might have with using a computer and the technology, it's just brilliant because it's a bit, I wonder how I do this, but you do it once and it's brilliant and it's easy and it's the future really. So I don't want to stay in the past. And it worked really, really well, especially our live calls. They're just precious.
Speak more about that, because some people might be a bit nervous, not even know what a live group call is. So do you want to just talk through about logistically how easy it is, first of all, but also like the community connection that we get from connecting internationally?
Yeah, well, people, as you say, people come from all over the world. We meet together or we listen together. Joey hosts it, and everybody has a chance to put a question in, and then ask questions on the night or the day, whenever it is it's happening, and you can share your experiences and how you're feeling and your successes and your not quite right feelings, and it's just so empowering and so encouraging to know that you aren't the only person, that there are other people out there just like you going through the same things, and you're not alone, you're not isolated anymore.
And when I had a similar experience when I went through a healing process a few years ago, and that was my first taste of online study and group calls, and it was totally new for me, and I was skeptical. I was like just open to trying. I did love the idea of being at home in my house, doing it in my pajamas, or like I loved that aspect of being at the computer and touching base with a professional. But I really didn't know what to expect, and I was, I suppose, nervous and skeptical, which is fair enough. But something that the facilitator said, which I was like, oh my goodness, is that just like hoo-hoo la la? But she said, when somebody on the call brings forward one of their challenges or emotional blockages, and we process that, and they role model a healing process, she said, everybody on the call listening is going to receive that healing, regardless of if they're live or listening to a replay. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, is that possible? Like, this just sounds a bit out there. But it is incredible how many people I have emailed me on those live calls and just say, I got so much out of so-and-so healing that sadness. I got so much out of so-and-so doing that tinnitus exercise. And they're actually receiving the healing by participating in the listening. And do you want to speak to that as a participant?
Yeah, that's I've had that happen so many times. It's just so powerful, and people are so brave to actually say, right, this is what I'm going through at the moment. You know, I'm having a really bad time or whatever, and I can't get rid of this feeling, and I can't get rid of that, and to work through it with other people, knowing that you've got their support, that they're all rooting for you. That's the powerful thing. That, you know, there's no judgment at all, because we all know we've been in those dark places, and this just lightens your day and makes you feel alive, really.
Yeah, and I've had people even email to say, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful that that person said that, because that's how I feel, and I didn't want to go live. And they're like, they kind of went live on my behalf, and there was like a shared simultaneous connection. And it's hilarious, because as people are going through this deep healing, and it's pretty deep stuff, some of the sharings, there'll be people on the chat box going, we believe in you, go for it, we support you, you're doing a great job. And so it's like this like cheerleader team streaming through.
Right with it, yay. And it is really, really empowering, and you just feel part of this huge family, this huge community, that you want the very best for these people that you know, or you don't really know, but you do know them, and yeah, it's just fantastic.
And I feel really blessed to have you in our community, and thank you so much for being brave and sharing this. Do you want to chat a little bit about how you personally engage with Rocksteady? If you want, you don't have to, but in terms of how do you go through the modules, how do you choose what you're going to do each day? Because obviously I'm not there, I'm not saying to Diane, you must do this, now I prescribe you this. Like, Diane is in a process, it's self-study. She's completely empowered to choose what she does, when she does, how she does. And I'm curious, do you want to talk through some of your, how it works for you and how you use the resources?
Well, I started off actually trying to go at breakneck speed. Thought, I can get through this module and I'll get on to the next one. And I very soon realised that wasn't the way to do things. And you were on my shoulder saying, you know, just take it slowly, do things as, you know, listen to your body. So that's what I did. And I felt the pressure, whether it's something that's built within me, that if I had a task to do, I needed to work through it and tick the boxes kind of thing. But I've become a really different person, and I just pick and choose, pick and mix, if you like. So I read through the whole module, and then I think, right, what do I think is best for me at this point? And that's the way I've approached it. So I've kind of made my own plan from the different modules. And it works. But I'm now in the process. I've been through all the 6 modules, but I'm now back to the beginning, because I feel that I probably missed things along the way, I want to go back and listen more and be slower.
I can unequivocally say you will have missed things, because especially in the beginning, we're overwhelmed. The brain can't take it all in. And every time we go back through each module, like you could literally go through it every single year, again and again and again. Every single time you go through the process, you'll learn more about yourself. So you're not kind of learning from the screen. You're not learning from like a textbook. Not like learning a language in terms of just learning new vocabulary. You're actually learning from in here. You're learning more about your physical self, more about your mental self, more about your emotional self, more about your spiritual self. And so every time you go through that process, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into that inner knowing and that bliss and that enlightenment and that empowerment. And I've actually had some people say, oh, do I have to keep doing exercises forever? Do I, can I go through the program and then it's all over? And it's like, well, to be honest, you can do what you like. There's no rules. But it's a way of life. It's a new mindset. It's a new philosophy. And it
it's
really,
a freedom, actually, isn't it? It's a freedom.
Yeah.
I found it. I'm doing something for myself, but I'm doing it the way that I think my body needs.
Yeah. So it's not an external prescription anymore. It's an inner knowing.
Yeah. And it's a real comfort blanket as well. My body scans on my comfort blanket.
That's gorgeous. Now, everybody will be like, do you have symptoms anymore? Are you healed? Blah, blah, blah. And I think we just checked out the symptom score initially started at 62%, which is moderately high. That means that more than half the time, 62% of the time, you've got some kind of positional, functional, or emotional distress related to symptoms. And it looks like that's dropped all the way down to only 18.
Yay!
Which is pretty remarkable. So you must be very proud of yourself and very happy with that incredible improvement.
So pleased that I found seeking balance. So pleased. I can't speak more highly of the whole, how it works. It's just perfect for me.
And so for all the triple PD and vestibular migraine people, and do you ever get tinnitus or not at all?
I've got something going on in my ear at the moment, but I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of ignoring it at the moment.
Yeah. Probably about, I can't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's close to 50% of people have both tinnitus and dizziness experiences, and some people have only the dizziness stuff coming from the ear, and other people have only the tinnitus coming from the ear. So they're kind of pathways sitting side by side. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what you're experiencing or what words you use to describe it. The process of healing and resetting and coming back to that place of inner knowing and inner love is the same. So if you've been diagnosed with initially PPPD, then triple PD, persistent postural perceptual dizziness, and vestibular migraine, it's all a bit loose. The diagnosis is never completely clear. But at this point in time, how will you know when you feel healed? You're certainly, I mean, it sounds to me like you're well on track. I don't know, when do you feel you've got that freedom and that peace? Are you there yet? Where are you?
I think I am. I am there. There are days, obviously, that we have that aren't as good as others, but I've learned to accept those and just, take my dizziness with me wherever I'm going, or my not quite right feelings. I think, right, okay, you're coming with me today. We're going to go to the movement class and we're going to be fine. And I come back and I've done it and I think, yes. So there are still some symptoms around, but I guess they're going to be. That's life, isn't it? Nothing is completely perfect, but it's as perfect as it can be.
And do you ever have moments of relief when you're just like, oh, I feel fine?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah.
And are they getting more and more and more frequent?
They're getting more and
longer?
more. Yeah, they get.
Great.
So before it was a definite cycle, but I'm having better times for longer now.
And that's exactly what we expect to see with neuroplasticity. So, I mean, for some people, it can be a sudden changeover from symptomatic to nothing, but probably most of the time, it's like neuron by neuron, we're shifting and healing. So we expect to see less symptoms, less severe, less often, and more feelings of empowerment, confidence, preparedness, steadiness, and really resetting that gauge of what's normal. And that happens over a transitional time. And like you said, it's pretty normal for the average punter to maybe have 1 or 2 migraines a year. It's not like we're perfect every single day of the year, even when we're like in that space of being normal. So there is movement in life, stressful moments, hiccups.
Absolutely.
and creating space for that without dramatizing it or catastrophizing it. And if we're going to have a bad day, it's a bad day, not a bad week or a bad month or a bad year. So being able to come back and reestablish normal is really that rock steady process.
Yeah.
And then we can face life with integrity and with confidence.
Yeah, that's it. I think the self-confidence and the acceptance of my symptoms has been the key. And realizing that, I'm kind of a different person now than I was before.
Yeah, and on that note, we might end the call in a moment, but on that note, would you feel confident to share with the listeners, if your symptoms were giving you a message of wisdom, a little magical miracle inner message of wisdom, have you been able to decode yet what that gift is, what the wisdom and the gift in your symptoms might be, what your body was communicating or is currently communicating to you?
I think that I've worked it out, that I think I was tired, needed to rest more, and I wasn't listening to that. I kind of kept on my routine that I'd always done, but then I realised I had to kind of go at a different pace. So if I would, for example, drive somewhere one day, then the following day I wouldn't. And so I paced myself, and then I realised that I don't get the symptoms. So it's just a matter of managing things. But yeah, it was eating regularly, I think, and sleeping.
That's really self-care, isn't it?
Self-care.
You know, and I think, don't listen to diets and protocols and regimes. Listen to your body, because the amount of sleep your body needs might not fit the general recommendation, and the kind of food your body's craving and needing and the quantities might be quite unique to you, and the amount of social interaction you need, the amount of alone time one person might need, the amount of connection with nature, the amount of working hours in a week. So really just fine-tuning, is this working for me? What is my rhythm?
Yeah, it's balancing that.
Yeah, and also acknowledging that things that worked for us in our 20s, 30s, 40s, etc., might not ring true anymore. So we've got to keep updating. What are my core values? We do that in module 4. What are my desired feelings, and how can I actively connect with those, rather than following all those external prescriptions of what does the osteopath say, what does the naturopath say, what does the doctor say, what does the physio say? It's all external, and they've got good intentions, but they're not you. So just for all the listeners, be the expert in you and engage in a rock steady process to figure that out and fine tune it for yourself. It's very subtle and it takes time. And like Diane said, you literally can't rush it.
No, you can't rush it. And I think sometimes when I'm having a not so good day, I know that I need to go to the beach and just look at the waves. And then that just calms me completely. And I see it, as I say, differently now. And it's just, well, you don't need any pills, medication. Just immerse yourself in nature, and it seems to work for me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds great. You're back at your movement classes, you're traveling again, you're out and about, so you got your life back.
I have, yeah. It's amazing how it works, slowly but surely. That's the thing, it really does. And I'll keep on with it because I'm committed to the feeling that it gives me.
Yeah, more joy in our life can't be a bad thing.
No, and I just think that you have got such a great way with managing us. And when we first join, you're always so supportive, but you're very careful to make us independent. You're like a mum. You got to give your kids independence. They can't hang on to you, and that's what you do to us, really. You kind of, you give us what we need, stroke us and make us feel good, and then you set us free.
Yeah. Well, I think there came a point in when I was developing these methods and these new programs and bringing it forth, without a doubt, the overriding belief system from my colleagues, from my medical colleagues and physiotherapy and psychology and audiology colleagues, was clients can't do it on their own. Like, that's the belief. They can't do it on their own. So they need these external structures, devices, programs, exercises, therapies. So when I would present at conferences, they would be like, yeah, but is there compliance? Do clients actually click in and do the exercises? Like, really? So this huge kind of, it's disempowering the client. And there was something inside of me that changed and realized I have to be that one voice on the planet that goes, you can do this. You can log in. You can click play. You don't need me. You've got this. Like, here's the resources. Here's the process. All you need to do is to believe in yourself, wake up and click play. And people do it.
Yeah.
When they're ready, they do it. When they're not ready, they won't do it. And that's fine, because if they're not ready today, they might be ready tomorrow. So it's like, I actually need to believe in you guys, because that's a part of your healing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Only we can do it.
Yeah. And myself and my colleagues, if we could go in and change your neurons and get the tweezers out and do it all, we would. We'd happily do it. But the reality is we can't. And so therefore we have to take a different approach and give you guys the tools to do that yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole Rocksteady process is about.
Yeah. And that's what you do so well. And it's just really great to have somebody there that actually knows and understands how you're feeling. That's and that doesn't happen very often.
Not with these invisible symptoms, no.
No.
So I'm so excited to share the January, February, March Live Rocksteady program with you. And I hope you can join, most of the calls. Do you have any closing words or any kind of little insights that you want to just finish the call off with, Diane?
I think we've covered such a lot, haven't we? I'm so pleased that I found Seeking Balance. I'm so pleased, and I just think that it's incredible how I managed to find Seeking Balance when I was just at that low point where I needed to move forward, and I needed to find that goal, really. And it's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And divine timing, we find the things we're ready for.
Yeah, it's kind of, it still gives me goosebumps to think that, where'd you come from? Just popped up. And why didn't I?
Well, look, I'm so pleased you did find me, and I'm so pleased that all of those gaze stabilization and physiotherapy exercises that initially made you feel sick didn't deter you from the home practice process, and that you found a way to drop into your truth, find your own pace, and take control of your healing.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I really look forward. Oh, my pleasure. And I really look forward to sharing more of your healing journey as it unfolds, and seeing you in the Live Rocksteady program starting January 29th, 2019. It's coming up.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
So for those of you listening, visit seekingbalance.com.au. You can look at the free body scan. There's also the Rocksteady program, which is a 12-week comprehensive toolkit for you to learn more about this process that Diane has been through and is continuing to explore. And the Live Rocksteady program will start January 29th. It includes 6 live group calls. I highly recommend you get in. There will be limited numbers, and I'm just so excited to meet more of our community. That's one of my favorite parts. So I'm Joey Remenyi. Visit seekingbalance.com.au. Thank you so much for your time, Diane, and it's a little bye for now.
Bye.